The Legend of Zelda is my favorite series of all time. This is the series I grew up playing a lot, and whenever I was upset or was going through something, I've always played a game in this series. They're all so fun and have incredible detail that it's just easy to get lost in all of these worlds. My goal is to hopefully make a video and talking about all of the Zelda games, so well, if that's my goal, let's start out where I originally started. I believe I was at least 5 or 6 years old when I originally played this game on the GameCube, and I remember very little of my first playthrough, but I remember falling in love with the atmosphere and just bizarre vibe this game gave off. If you guys haven't guessed it today, I would love to talk to you all about and discuss the story of The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask. The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask released in the year 2000. Doomsday was upon us, as people were saying back then. I believe that's what they were saying, I guess. I don't know. I was only 2 years old when people were discussing the end of the world during the year 2000. And that's probably where Nintendo got that idea from. After the huge success of Ocarina of Time, Nintendo were ready to make a sequel, or if anything, make some expansions, also known as DLC, as it's referred now, but Mr. AJ Onuma wanted to create a whole new Legend of Zelda title. Why am I telling you all of this, you may be asking? Well, it's because this meant that Majora's Mask was made during the span of 2 years, forcing the game to use the same engine as Ocarina of Time and reused a lot of assets, and also just because I think it's a really cool little fact. Like I mentioned, I was only 2 years old, so I wasn't really there at release to play the game, but it was a couple of years later when they released the game in a collection of Zelda games for the GameCube where I was finally able to play it. Now, people say that this is one of the worst ways to experience this game due to bugs and glitches while porting over the game to GameCube, but I was a kid, so I had no idea what frames were or anything. Starting up the game, you are greeted to Link riding Epona through the woods when a couple of prankster fairies scare Epona, knocking Link down. A mysterious figure shows itself known as Skull Kid wearing a mask, and he approaches Link and searches his body, finding a pretty ocarina. Link gets up and Skull Kid panics, hiding the ocarina behind him. Link attempts to grab Skull Kid but gets on Epona, making the poor horse freak out and starts running away. Link manages to lunge and grab Skull Kid's foot, dragging Link in the process, but after a while, Link loses his grip and Skull Kid rides away. Pursuing Skull Kid, Link falls down a tree, landing on a Deku flower bed, cushioning his fall. While there, Skull Kid is patiently waiting for him, informing Link that he left this horse and later on transforming Link to a new Deku child form. Skull Kid leaves while forgetting Tattle, who happens to be the fairy who accompanies Link in this adventure. After he goes through this twisting corridor, Link has approached the inside of a clock tower. Going up, he sees the man known as the Happy Mask Salesman, informing Link that he has met with the most famous quote ever here, "Terrible fate," and can help Link restore to his normal form if he gets back what he lost, also known as the ocarina. In return though, Link has to also get the mask that Skull Kid was wearing, known as Majora's Mask, which is possessed with such great evil. Link agrees, leaves the clock tower, leading to a town known as Clock Town, preparing for a festival coming up in 3 days. Link has to receive a magic upgrade from the magic fairy fountain, basically helping him spit bubbles, I'm guessing, as Deku Link. Link also plays a game of hide and seek with the Bomber Gang kids and becomes a member, getting a code to give Link access to some sewers to go talk to an old astronomer. Link looks through his telescope and sees Skull Kid on top of the tower taunting him and sees the moon shedding a tear landing right outside. Link makes his way outside of the astronomy place and Link gathers the moon tear. He later on finds a Deku Scrub to give him the title to use the Deku Flower and granting him access to get a point to climb in the entrance to the top of the tower. Sadly, depending on how and what time you get there, the way leading will be closed, but you can just talk to an old lady who will tell you stories that will tire you out and then speak with a scarecrow to dance with to make the dawn of the final day. Oh, there's one thing that I forgot to mention, that is that this game actually has a clock, or basically only gives you 3 days to complete the entirety of the game. But once you regain your ocarina, you can actually replay the Song of Time whenever you like to return to the first day. It's a really cool mechanic that some people didn't enjoy when the game first originally released, but personally I actually really love it. Also, a quick tip for you new players here: if you want more time, you can actually play the Song of Time in reverse and you can slow down time. This works on both the 3DS version of the game and also any other old school N64 or any versions of the game. Continuing on, Link gets to the top, seeing Skull Kid and Tattle's brother Tail. Tail informs Link and Tattle to go to 4 areas in the world to wake up 4 giants and help put an end to all of this. Skull Kid smacks Tail, and Tattle of course took offense to that. Skull Kid starts screaming, making the moon come crashing down in the world, but luckily Link is able to spit bubbles and make Skull Kid drop the ocarina. Link picks up the ocarina and plays the Song of Time that he remembers that Zelda taught him before he left into this new adventure. Link plays the ocarina, returning time to the first first day. Remembering about the Happy Mask Salesman, Link goes back into the tower and the Happy Mask Salesman shows him a song, which is one of my favorite themes in the entire series, returning Link to his original form. The Happy Mask Salesman asks Link to return what he has promised, but sadly Link never got the mask back. This makes the salesman very upset and starts choking my boy for some odd reason. Being informed of the mask, Link finally sets out on his big adventure to go find the 4 giants and return Majora's masks to the salesman. Link goes to each 4 of the dungeons here, saving all 4 of the giants who used to be friends with Skull Kid. The original backstory about this is that Skull Kid was kind of feeling neglected because the 4 giants left, and because of this, he decided to seal all 4 of these gentle giants to the 4 dungeons in the game. One surrounded by a nasty swamp, on top of a giant snow-covered mountain, another in an ocean, and lastly in a tower passing a canyon. Link also goes through so many side quests in this game that have such emotional and interesting stories that help this game world come alive. It's honestly what makes this game amazing, and in my opinion one of the best Zelda games of all time. You have the legendary Anju Cafe side quest, which is a quest about love that this couple have for one another. Cafe being turned into a child because of the Skull Kid, forcing him to hide himself from his beloved Anju, but you later on help him to finally reunite with his beloved, and it becomes a beautiful scene, especially when it's literally seconds when the moon is crashing. But them not caring and wanting to spend the last couple of minutes they have together just brings this whole scene just to life. I don't know how to explain it. It's just a beautiful moment that you all really have to witness for yourselves. After defeating all bosses in the game and releasing the giant, you get taught a song to help you from stopping the moon. Getting to the top of the tower once again, you are ready for the final showdown with Skull Kid. You play the song and Skull Kid collapses to the floor, thinking that it's finally all over. The dark entity Majora's Mask says it has no more use for the puppet and making its way to the moon. Link follows Majora, leading him to this really peacefully dreamy kind of like grass field with a single tree in the middle of the map. This is where if you do all of the side quests and get all the masks in the game come to play. You interact with each of these 4 children running around wearing the face of the 4 bosses you defeated to do some challenges, giving them the masks you collected to the children. Once you do all of that and you're ready for the final battle, you speak with a kid wearing Majora's mask and he gives you a new and final mask, the Fierce Deity mask, which is the most overpowered and badass transformation in this entire game. You face Majora, defeating his 3 creepy forms, making the land of Termina a peaceful land once again. Skull Kid apologizes to everyone that he was being controlled by the mask, but everyone pretty much just said it's all good, my boy. Well, they didn't say that, but you get my point, and that's the end of The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask. So that was The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask, my favorite game and first introduction to the entire Zelda series here. Now this game has multiple versions, but the ones that I would highly recommend for you guys to try out is the original N64 version, and I would even say the 2015 3DS remake of the game. This game has been released on other systems such as the Wii and Wii U, and will actually be coming along for the Nintendo Switch Online membership coming soon. But the best way for me that I would highly recommend is for sure is the 3DS version. Just keep in mind that comparing this to the original, there are some changes comparing to this. For example, some of the boss fights may be a little bit different. But for someone who's playing Majora's Mask for the first time, I honestly would recommend this version here. Like I've said throughout this video, Majora's Mask is my favorite Zelda game, not just because it's my first game I ever played in the series, but mainly because the dungeon designs and the amazing stories this game has is incredible. All the side quests in this game give you so much emotion that you will be tearing up or even empathizing with all these characters, especially with the moon always being there up above, getting closer and closer each second. Guys, I hope you enjoyed the story of The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask. Leave a like if you guys did, subscribe if you're new to the channel here, and I'll be seeing you guys in the next video. Bye guys.